Hey, what's up YouTubers, Lee John Blackmore here at Super Easy Guitar. So this week I'm going to show you how to make scales not sound like scales and make them sound more like guitar solos. And you know, I'm not the greatest guitar solo player in the universe, but I can certainly show you how to play something really minimal like I just did, and I'm just utilizing the Pentatonic and a few added bits on top, but it's actually really simple and straightforward. And as you can hear in the background, there's just two chords, A minor and F. Really simple. So you can either set this up as a loop, or you can jam along with one of your friends, and I'll show you how to kind of attempt this step by step. Let's zoom in and have a closer look. Now, my apologies in advance for any background noise you can hear. As you can see, I've got the setup out in the garden and there's chainsaws and all sorts of stuff going on in the background, so hopefully that won't be too distracting. Now, the chords I'm playing, A minor and F, as I mentioned. Now the rhythm, down, down, up, down, up, down, up, down, down, up, down, up, down. It's a really simple progression, and I've based it on an old Snowy White tune. Now, if you don't know who Snowy White is, he was a session player back in the day, played with everyone, a musician in his own right, and you know, if you know his stuff, you'll recognize this, okay? And I picked it because he kind of uses the pentatonic, okay? A minor pentatonic, which you should all be familiar with now because I always talk about it in my lessons. And it's a very kind of, he's a very minimalist, well, not all the time, but that kind of minimalist playing, not overplaying, not underplaying. There's a few little nice licks here and there. Now, the way I learned to guitar solo, now I'm no Van Halen or anything like that, but the way I learned to guitar solo is actually by learning other people's guitar solos and just improvising over the top, which is why I kind of picked this one. So what you have to understand is the pentatonic doesn't have to just be in this one position, and it doesn't have to sound like this boring old scale. Some of you will already know the extensions. Now, you know, already that sounds complicated when I talk about extensions, but it really isn't. That's okay. And all I mean by extensions is coming out. So there's this pentatonic position here on the fretboard between 5 and 8, and just coming out of the position into another position up here. Now, we could talk about pentatonic positions all day long, but I'm just going to dip into a few bits, and that'll help you play the pentatonic so it doesn't sound like a scale, not so much anyway. Okay, so if we just start from the low A, now instead of going from this note here, the 8th fret on the B, to the 5th fret on the top E, we can actually slide that note up there, right? So we get this, which already isn't sounding as much like a scale, just adding that extra note. And you can see I swapped my finger there just because I've got more control over this third than my pinky. It's a bit stronger. And then what you can do, and again, I've got some added notes here, still part of the pentatonic minor, okay? So let's go up from the beginning, slide up, and then we're into the 8th fret on the top E, and then up to the 10th fret on the top E, okay? So now just get used to doing something really simple like that, right? So it's just, so you're just doing something a little bit different. Or you could slide backwards there. Okay, so the other thing you saw me doing as well would be like phrasing. Or, you know, let's take that because it's a bit more simple, it's a bit more straightforward, right? So instead of starting here, I'm actually starting on the 5th fret of the A string, sliding up, so 5 to 7 on the A string. Again, utilising that slide, and it doesn't sound so much like a scale. Doing the normal pentatonic. First finger, 5th fret on the G string. Little bend, and coming back to the previous note, okay? Repeating phrases is always good, okay? Just hold there, and then the second time round, and come home. So you see I did that same phrase, but I did it up here. A little bend there, 8th fret, back to the 10th, back to home, right? Or see again, instead of going, I went, so that's the same note, okay? It's just C. So D, C, A, instead of doing that, sliding down, D, C, A. Sounds more interesting, and you can go back the other way. So you see we got two different types of licks there using exactly the same notes in the same position. It's just how you phrase them. Now another thing you can do is sometimes you see me using fingers. And again, I'm using the pentatonic minor. I'm just coming out of the extension. So where we did that little box there, I mean, some people call it BB's box because BB King used to sit between these 4 posts, if you like, or 4 corners. So when you come out of this pentatonic here, sorry, we come up to the next position where the pinky would be, okay? And you've got BB's box. So he would do all sorts of stuff in that box, okay? So, but you can come out of it a different way. Which is kind of cool, right? So, I'm starting on the 10th fret, I'm going 10 on the top E, 8, 10 on the B, 8 on the B, and then I'm using my 3rd finger and I'm coming over to that dot, okay, which is 9. And I'm sliding with that 3rd finger down to the 7th fret. Doing a pull off to 5, so it's a little bit, you know, it takes some getting used to. Okay. Sorry. So as I'm doing a pull off there, you can see I'm finishing on A. That's the A of the pentatonic. But the main thing behind all of this stuff when it comes to playing solos is having kind of a rhythm behind the notes. And when I'm improvising, I don't always do that perfectly, you know. Like I said, I'm not the best player. But if you put a bit of rhythm behind the notes, you actually can get away with doing less. So if you've got this And then I'm just hanging. There's nothing complicated going on, but you'll agree it sounds cool, right? Now all I'm doing there, if you're wondering, it's just I'm bending the string up without you hearing it, and then letting it down. Or a bend up, obviously, will work the same. Just having a little bit of rhythm behind the notes. Kind of get the idea. So that's one good way of approaching how to make the scales sound less like scales. Get yourself a backing track. There's plenty online, or play with a buddy, or put this stuff on a looper like I've talked about before, and just experiment. Get used to playing these pentatonic extensions, and I'll do a whole video perhaps next week or the week after on the 5 positions. Now I'm getting attacked by flies. The 5 positions of the pentatonic. Okay, so obviously the one we're familiar with, the minor, that's position 1, and then where the first one ends, the next one begins. Sorry. And look, we end up in BB's box. Now I never really play them like that. I never really play them that way, but it's really handy to know where they are. So you're not just learning one pentatonic position, you're learning the one next door. And there's one before as well, if you've got one in the middle of the fretboard. Again, we wouldn't necessarily play them like that, but we might want to go from BB's box and then we're going down to the previous position, okay, which is actually position 5, because the scales come back around again. They start over again. So 1 to 5, and then 5, 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, and so on. Okay. And so on. So hopefully that's been a little bit of an insight into how to start guitar soloing, and I can do another one of these lessons. I can do part 2, and I can kind of break down the solo. Maybe the guitar solo from Stairway to Heaven or something like that. I think that's really cool on the acoustic guitar. I have done a lesson on it already. But I can break it down, because these are the type of solos that I learned to learn how to solo. Okay? And they're not, they're not as complicated as you think. When they're played fast like that, yes, they sound complicated, but they're really not, okay? So there you have it, guys. Hope you enjoyed this week's lesson. Please don't forget, hit that subscribe button. And remember, I don't get paid for majority of these lessons due to copyright, but I have set up a PayPal donation button over on my website. And I've also got some t-shirts for sale over there too. Hook me up on Instagram if you'd like to send me a message or a request, and I'll do my very best to reply to you. I'll see you again the same time next week. Enjoy.